Right, first, let's bring you some breaking news. Alex Scott has turned down a new Bournemouth contract amid strong interest from Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United, according to Sky Sports News. Bournemouth have made Scott a number of offers since discussions began towards the end of the season, but it's believed the midfielder has indicated he's not currently willing to agree new terms. As we mentioned, United, Chelsea and Arsenal are believed to remain the front runners for Scott, whilst other clubs are also keen. Bournemouth expect Scott to remain their player next season, whether he signs a new offer or continues on his current deal. As part of their club-wide stance to keep their best players, which also includes Kieran Krupi and winger Ryan, two more players who have interest from other clubs.
Give you some understanding from a player's point of view, especially at a club like Bournemouth, fantastic club, but they're a stepping stone club. You know, their whole model is, you know, bringing players in, you know, obviously giving the platform to progress, you know, selling them for big money and then having someone else to come in and do exactly the same thing again. But when you look at Alex Scott's his trajectory, he's been playing really, really well. Obviously, he got recognised by England, you know, for his performance. He's been training with England before, he's been in the squad. He hasn't made his debut yet, but ultimately he's a fantastic player and he's been linked with the biggest clubs, you know, in the Premier League and probably, you know, around the world as well. But when I look at Alex Scott, I just think that he's English, he's very good, he's an all-round midfielder, he can play in a number of positions, he's scored some important goals. But then you look at the teams that are, you know, really searching for a midfielder, I would be looking at Aston Villa. You know, Aston Villa just lost Tielemans. Onana's, you know, done his ACL, so he's going to be out the whole season. I think a club like Aston Villa would be probably circling around him because he's a fantastic player.
Does it feel like it's been a breakthrough season for you?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think just more with the minutes and obviously the way I've been playing, I think it's been brilliant. Like we've mentioned before, the injuries didn't help with the first two, but I think even when I was fit, I probably wasn't at the level where I know I can be. I've had to work a lot and improve a lot, the gym side of things and the tactical side of things as well. So, you know, I've improved massively this season and the consistent amount of minutes has, yeah, it's definitely helped.
Do you feel stronger physically yourself?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And I think all the data's there to show it with the gym, the guys in the gym and on a match day, the running stats as well. My running stats are always, you know, right up there at the top. So that shows I'm doing everything right when I'm in the gym and on the football pitch as well. So yeah, it's been.
Scott has already won the Under-19s Euros and the Under-21s Euros, and he was called up by Thomas Tuchel for the first time as part of the senior England squad back in November. That's whetted his appetite for more.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. I think the whole England thing in general, I think I've been in the squad since under-18s, so I know how it feels to play for England. I've won 2 tournaments for England, so you know, I've only had positive memories, and obviously the senior call-up was, yeah, a dream come true, I think.
Do we think about the March international break, the last one that Thomas Tuchel will pick before that World Cup? Does that ever cross your mind?
Yeah,
at quiet times at home or
yeah,
having a coffee with the lads?
Yeah, sometimes. I think it would be, you know, stupid of me not to say it did. Obviously it does, and
it's okay to say you want it, isn't it? And
exactly.
you know, your ambition's clear.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tournament in the summer, and you want to be picked. I want to be in the England team. That's my dream, my ambition. I wouldn't say I'm non-stop thinking about it and getting worked up about it, but you know, it's definitely a part of it, and I'm sure it is for many other players in the country and different countries as well. But yeah, like I said before, I've just got to keep playing and keep performing at this level and keep my place in the team, and yeah, we'll see what happens in March.
Arsenal make a major move for Alex Scott as Mikel Arteta targets England's next midfield star. Ladies and gentlemen, a fascinating Arsenal transfer story is beginning to gather serious momentum, and this one could shape the Gunners' midfield for the next decade. Forget the superstar names, forget the blockbuster headlines, because Mikel Arteta and Arsenal's recruitment team may have identified one of the smartest signings of the entire summer transfer window. His name, Alex Scott. At just 22 years of age, the Bournemouth midfielder has become one of the hottest young talents in English football. And according to the latest reports, Arsenal are firmly in the race to sign him. But this won't be easy, because Bournemouth don't want to sell. Manchester United are watching closely. Chelsea remain interested. Tottenham are monitoring the situation. And Arsenal could reportedly be forced to spend somewhere between £60 million and £80 million if they want to convince Bournemouth to part ways with one of their brightest stars. So the big question is, will Arsenal really spend that kind of money? Does Mikel Arteta believe Alex Scott is the missing piece in his midfield? Or will Bournemouth succeed in convincing their young star to stay for another season? Today, we're breaking down everything. We'll explain why Arsenal admire Alex Scott, what Andrea Berta has reportedly been doing behind the scenes, why Bournemouth are refusing to let him go, how Scott would fit into Arteta's tactical system, and whether this transfer could genuinely happen before the window closes. Because this isn't just another transfer rumour. This could become one of the defining Arsenal stories of the summer. Arsenal continue planning for the future. One thing has become very clear under Mikel Arteta. Arsenal never stop planning. Even while competing for Premier League titles, even while challenging in the Champions League, the recruitment department continues searching for players capable of making the squad stronger, not just today, but 5, 6, or even 10 years into the future. That's exactly why Arsenal have built one of Europe's youngest elite squads. Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard. Each signing wasn't simply about the present, each represented an investment in the future. And according to the latest reports, Alex Scott now appears to fit that same philosophy perfectly. Who is Alex Scott? If you've watched Bournemouth over the past season, you'll already understand why so many clubs admire him. But if you haven't, let's explain exactly why Arsenal are so interested. Alex Scott isn't simply another talented English midfielder. He's a complete modern footballer, comfortable receiving possession under pressure, confident driving through midfield. Excellent technically, energetic without the ball, creative in possession, disciplined defensively, and perhaps most importantly, he's constantly improving. Those qualities are incredibly difficult to find, especially in young English players. That's why clubs across Europe have been monitoring his development for months. Arsenal's interest is serious, according to reports from Fabrizio Romano. Arsenal have already begun laying the foundations. Conversations have reportedly taken place with people close to Alex Scott. Meanwhile, Andrea Berta has also reportedly contacted Bournemouth to better understand the conditions required for any potential transfer. Notice something important here. At this stage, reports suggest Arsenal are gathering information, understanding Bournemouth's position, evaluating financial requirements, studying every possible scenario. This isn't yet being reported as a completed negotiation. Instead, it's the early phase of what could become one of the summer's biggest midfield stories, Andrea Berta's influence. Since arriving at Arsenal, Andrea Berta has quickly become one of the most important figures behind the scenes. Supporters often focus on Mikel Arteta, but every successful transfer begins long before managers speak with players. Scouting, data analysis, financial planning, negotiations, long-term strategy. That's where Berta excels. Throughout his career, he's earned a reputation for identifying elite talent before prices become completely unreachable. So when reports suggest Berta is personally involved, supporters immediately pay attention, because historically, he rarely wastes time on players the club doesn't genuinely admire. Bournemouth's position, of course, Arsenal may admire Alex Scott, but admiration doesn't automatically create a transfer, and Bournemouth have made their position very clear. According to the reports, they do not want to sell him this summer. In fact, their priority is reportedly the complete opposite. The club hopes to convince Scott to sign a brand new long-term contract, one that would secure his future, reward his development, and include a significant release clause. Why? Because Bournemouth believe keeping Alex Scott for at least another season could be enormously valuable, not only for results on the pitch, but potentially for increasing his transfer value even further. It's a strategy we've seen many ambitious Premier League clubs adopt. Protect your biggest assets. Reward them financially, delay the sale, then negotiate from an even stronger position later. However, football has always worked the same way. Every club says a player isn't for sale until the right offer arrives. And according to current reports, Bournemouth's valuation sits somewhere between £60 million and £80 million. That's a remarkable figure, especially for a player still only 22 years old. But Bournemouth believe they're justified, because elite young English midfielders have become incredibly valuable, especially those already proving themselves in the Premier League. Some supporters immediately ask, £80 million, really? But let's think about today's market. Premier League experience, young age, English nationality, elite technical ability, room for improvement, long contract, European qualification. All those factors dramatically increase value. Bournemouth know they don't need to sell. That immediately strengthens their negotiating position. If Arsenal truly want Alex Scott, they may need to pay close to Bournemouth's asking price, and Bournemouth know it. One major reason Scott's reputation has exploded is Bournemouth's remarkable campaign. The club exceeded expectations. Week after week, they competed against some of England's strongest sides, and Alex Scott became one of the central figures in that success. His performances helped Bournemouth achieve something historic: European qualification. That achievement transformed perceptions. Suddenly, Scott wasn't simply an exciting young player. He became one of the standout midfielders in one of Europe's toughest leagues. That naturally attracted attention, not just from Arsenal, but from almost every major Premier League recruitment department. His club performances haven't gone unnoticed. Reports also suggest England manager Thomas Tuchel has been impressed by Scott's development. Many observers now believe a senior England call-up is becoming increasingly likely. That's another important factor. International recognition almost always increases a player's market value. Because once players establish themselves on the international stage, competition for their signature often becomes even stronger, which is exactly why Arsenal may prefer to act sooner rather than later.
Arsenal drop £80 million bombshell. Alex Scott transfer could change Arteta'S midfield forever. Arsenal's summer transfer window could be heading toward another dramatic twist, with the Gunners reportedly considering a major move for Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott. An £80 million transfer figure has been mentioned in connection with the midfielder, raising huge excitement among Arsenal supporters who are eager to see Mikel Arteta strengthen his squad ahead of another demanding campaign. While there has been no official confirmation that Arsenal have submitted an £80 million bid or that a deal has been agreed, the growing speculation surrounding Scott has created plenty of discussion. If Arsenal were to make a serious approach, it could become one of the most interesting transfer street auras of the summer. So, why would Alex Scott be considered such an attractive option for Arsenal? And could Arteta play a key role in making the potential transfer happen? Alex Scott, the midfielder WHO, could fit Arteta's system. Mikel Arteta has developed a very specific style of football at Arsenal. The manager wants his players to be technically gifted, intelligent, comfortable in possession and capable of adapting to different tactical situations. Alex Scott appears to have several qualities that could make him an interesting option for such a system. The Bournemouth midfielder has demonstrated his ability to contribute in different areas of the pitch. His technical quality allows him to operate in possession, while his energy and mobility can help his team transition between defense and attack. For Arsenal, versatility is becoming increasingly important. The Gunners compete across multiple competitions every season, meaning Arteta needs a squad capable of handling injuries, suspensions and fixture congestion. Having a midfielder who can perform different roles could give the manager additional tactical flexibility. Scott's ability to play in midfield and potentially operate in more advanced positions could make him an attractive option. The question is whether Arsenal see him as an immediate starter, a long-term investment or a player who could gradually become an important part of the first team. Why Arsenal could be interested? Arsenal have spent recent transfer windows building a younger squad with the potential to compete for trophies for many years. The club's recruitment strategy has increasingly focused on players who can improve the team immediately while also having the potential to develop further. Alex Scott could fit that profile. At a relatively young age, the midfielder still has time to develop his game. Working under Arteta could potentially help him improve tactically and technically, particularly in a team that demands high levels of positional discipline and intelligence. At Arsenal, Scott would also be surrounded by high-quality players who could allow him to develop without carrying the entire responsibility of the midfield. The presence of experienced players could help him adapt to the pressure of competing for the Premier League title and playing in European competitions. However, Arsenal would need to decide whether the reported £80 million valuation represents good value. That would be a significant investment, and the club would need to be convinced that Scott can become a key player for years to come. Arteta's role could be crucial. One of the most interesting aspects of this potential transfer is the role of Arsenal's sporting director, Arteta. Arteta is expected to have an important influence on Arsenal's recruitment strategy, and any major transfer negotiation would require careful planning. If Arsenal genuinely want to sign Scott, negotiations with Bournemouth could be complicated.
Bournemouth would naturally want to protect the value of one of their most important players. They would have little reason to accept a low offer, particularly if they believe Scott has a major role to play in their own ambitions. This could force Arsenal to consider a significant financial package. The reported £80 million figure would represent a substantial commitment, but Arsenal could potentially explore different structures, including a guaranteed transfer fee combined with pro forma NCE-related bonuses. Berta's negotiation skills could therefore become extremely important. The challenge would be to convince Bournemouth to sell while ensuring Arsenal do not overpay for the player. Bournemouth's big dilemma. From Bournemouth's perspective, losing Alex Scott would be a major decision. The club has worked to build a competitive Premier League squad, and keeping talented players is essential to maintaining progress. If Arsenal were to make a serious offer, Bournemouth would have to consider whether the financial reward is worth losing an important player. The Cherries could attempt to reject the approach and convince Scott to remain at the club. Alternatively, they could demand a huge fee that reflects the midfielder's importance and potential. This is why any potential Arsenal transfer could become a complicated negotiation. Arsenal may believe that Scott is the right player for Arteta's midfield, while Bournemouth may be determined to keep him unless their valuation is met. What would Scott bring to Arsenal? If a move eventually happened, Scott could offer Arsenal another dimension in midfield. His technical ability could help Arsenal maintain possession, while his energy could be useful when the team loses the ball in immediate attempts to regain control. Arteta's football requires midfielders to understand space and make intelligent decisions. Scott's versatility could also be particularly useful during difficult periods of the season. Imagine Arsenal facing a crucial Champions League match before traveling to a difficult Premier League opponent just a few days later. Having additional midfield options would allow Arteta to rotate his squad without significantly reducing the quality of his team. That depth could prove crucial in a title race. However, Scott would still need to compete for his place. Arsenal already have talented midfielders, and any new signing would have to earn the trust of the manager. A move to the Emirates would come with enormous expectations, especially if the transfer fee approached the reported £80 million figure. Could this be Arsenal's next big statement? Arsenal supporters have become accustomed to seeing their club linked with ambitious transfers. The Gunners are no longer simply looking to compete for a top 4 position. The expectation is to challenge for the biggest trophies. That means Arsenal need players who can perform under pressure. If the club genuinely believes Alex Scott can help them reach another level, then a major investment could make sense. But there is still a long way between transfer rumors and an official agreement. At this stage, reports of an £80 million bid should be treated cautiously unless confirmed by Arsenal, Bournemouth or reliable sources close to the negotiations. Nevertheless, the possibility of Scott joining Arsenal is an intriguing one. The midfielder's technical qualities, versatility and potential could make him an interesting addition to Arteta's squad. If Andrea Berta can successfully negotiate a deal that Arsenal consider financially responsible, the transfer could become one of the most talked about moves of the summer. For Bournemouth, the challenge would be to resist Arsenal's interest and convince Scott that his future remains at the Vitality Stadium. For Arsenal, the question is whether Scott is worth making such a significant financial commitment. And for Arteta, the biggest question is simple: could Alex Scott become the next important piece of Arsenal's midfield? The summer transfer window is full of surprises, and if these reports develop into something more concrete, Arsenal fans could soon have a major transfer saga on their hands. For now, supporters will be waiting for the next big update. One thing is certain: if Arsenal really are preparing an £80 million move for Alex Scott, this could be a transfer story worth watching very closely. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the Arsenal Headquarters channel, and turn on notifications for more Arsenal transfer news and updates.